All right, welcome to week 3 of the Product Creation Masterclass. This week's webinar content is going to be on the topic of product testing, which is what we focused on this week. My name is Barrett Brooks. I lead the marketing team here at ConvertKit. And the great news for you, hopefully, is that I've been working with people just like you, starting online businesses and working to launch online products to customers who are going to rave about them for over 5 years now. I've worked in a variety of roles. I've worked as a business coach directly one-to-one with people just like you, and I still do that today. I've worked as the director of growth and marketing and the director of customer success at an online training site called Fizzle that is specifically built for online independent entrepreneurs. And now I've worked in this role as director of marketing here at ConvertKit, which is email marketing software for professional bloggers. So I've been around the block a little bit. For 3 years, I ran my own online business called Living for Monday. It was serving students in college who are about to graduate and want to find jobs they love. And that business succeeded in a lot of ways and failed in others, and I ended up shutting it down after 3 years and learned a ton in the process that gave me great perspective that I think I bring to the table as a practitioner and now as an advisor to people just like you. So I hope that this colored commentary on all the product testing material you've been through this week is super helpful. And I'm not going to review everything that we went over this week, but I am going to give some perspective from what I've seen in online businesses just like yours about how you can think about product testing, gathering feedback, evaluating that feedback, and then applying it to your pricing strategy. So let's dive right in. First things first, one of the hardest things once you've found people to test your product is getting great feedback. And when we think about great feedback, it's not just will people tell you that they liked your thing. It's so much deeper than that. And so to gather feedback, we've got to have a great mechanism. So assuming you've already built your product and you've got 5, 10, 25, maybe even 50 beta testers as we call them, or people trying out your product, the next step after they've gone through your course or after they've read your ebook or after they've tried your physical product is to send them a survey to find out what they think. So here's the deal. When you send a survey like this, your instinct is going to be that you want the person on the other end of that survey to tell you all the reasons why you are awesome as a human being. I want you to know, from me, right now, you're awesome. You already can take that away and put that in your back pocket and live with it forever and ever. Your job with this survey is not to craft questions that are going to elicit responses from people that tell you how great you are. This power pose from this guy represents exactly what I imagine people do when they create survey questions a lot of the time, which is like, I am amazing. Remind me of how amazing I am. But what you're really looking for when it comes to a survey like this that's designed to get real feedback on the product you've created is finding out what's not working for your customers. The sooner you can find out what's not working, the more likely you are to front load the hard part and then get to celebrate later when you sell this product and it resonates deeply with people and they recommend you to all their friends. The difference in doing the hard part now versus doing the hard part later is that if you can front load the hard to hear feedback, the critical feedback to right now as you gather it, you're going to get to do the fun part later, which is making more sales. The alternative is if you front load the fun part, which is getting great feedback and having people tell you how awesome you are now, you're going to have to backload or back end the hard part, which ends up being not making enough sales of your product once you launch it. So if you can wrap your head around getting all that hard critical feedback now, you're going to benefit so much from it later. So I want to talk about 3 magic questions and how you can use them on your survey. So I think of these as kind of 3 questions that will get right to the heart of why people aren't enjoying your product or why they wouldn't recommend it to others. So I've got 3 questions. And the trick here is you can't ask 100 questions on your feedback survey. You have to be very specific, very focused, very to the point on what do you want to know from these people. And what you want to know is what's not working so that you can fix it. So 3 questions. Here we go. Number 1, what are you struggling with right now? And how did you hope this course would change that? So a couple of things to know here. First of all, the reason we ask about struggles is most of the time, or much of the time, especially when it comes to information products, which are much of what people create online, people are struggling with a problem that they want solved. This is that classic question that so often you're told as a blogger to send to your email list as you're gaining new email subscribers. Send them an email, ask them what they're struggling with right now. When you get those responses on what people are struggling with, it tells you what product to build because you understand the pain points of the people you're serving. Now, you can replace struggling with if you're like a musician and you're creating an exclusive album for your email subscribers, you could replace this with, what's your favorite kind of music or something like that. But I think for most of you, you're going to be creating a digital product, an information product that's a course or an ebook or an audio series or something like that. And this question is perfect for that because you find out what people were struggling with. And then the second part is the kicker. And that is, how did you hope this course, and you can substitute whatever the type of product you're building in there. So what did you hope this ebook, what did you hope this course, what did you hope this audio program, this workshop, whatever. How did you hope this course would change that? So you're getting the problem in the first part of the question, and you're getting the hope or the goal or the dream that they have for what your product will do for them in the second part of the question. So you're finding out what they expected this product to do for them, what job they hired your product to do. And if your product doesn't do that job already, then the way you end up using the feedback is you fix it so that it does do that job. So that's question number one. What are you struggling with right now, and how did you hope this course would change that? The second question is, which lessons or which chapters did you skip or quit, and why? So this question might seem a little weird because it's like, well, I don't know I don't want to know what they skipped or quit because then they won't have any feedback. But the thing is, the things they skip or quit are the things they don't think matter, the things they don't think are valuable, which means you haven't either done one of two things. Either you haven't picked the right content because they don't care about it to begin with, or number two, you have not positioned your content in the right way to garner their interest. Your job as a product creator is to, number one, know what your people need and to create the right content for that need. And number two, to make sure you position it in a way that interests them so that you get the right stuff in front of the right people. This question tells you which stuff people don't care enough about to read or to listen to or to watch. And your job is to either make it more interesting or get rid of it because it's wasting their time right now if they're not paying attention to it. So question number two, which lessons did you skip or quit and why? Question number three, okay. What is the number one reason you would give to a close friend or your best friend not to buy my course? I think it's so tempting to want to ask, what's the number one reason you would give to a friend to buy my course? Because now it's like, oh, those are all my selling points. And that might be true, but at this point in the process, your job is to find out the truth. And the truth of the matter is that if a best friend asks you whether you would buy a product over again, you're going to tell them the real deal. You're not going to lie to them because they're your best friend. You don't want to screw them over. You don't want them to spend money that you wouldn't spend yourself, especially if they can learn from your mistake. So the goal of this question is to find out all the ways in which your product is broken, and those come out in the question of, imagine your best friend asking you, should I buy Barrett's course? Should I buy Barrett's book? And if that person says, no, because you can watch his TED Talk and it gives you all the same information, or no, because I paid $100 and honestly, I think I could get the same information for free online, or whatever the reason is, you want to know that now. If you know why people won't recommend your course, that is often going to be the same objections that people might have up front. And it's often most truthful when they're telling their best friend why they wouldn't buy it again because they care about that person and they don't want to lie to them. So if you can uncover the real truth here about why they wouldn't recommend it, I think it's going to serve you really, really well. And number one, figuring out how to sell this product to people. And number two, figuring out the fatal flaws in your product that exist and why there won't be word of mouth referrals to this product in the future. So fix these and you'll fix a lot of future problems too. So third question, what is the number one reason you would give to a close friend not to buy my course? All right, that's part one. So we talked all about getting the right feedback, and we talked about the 3 magic questions that we can use to help get that feedback. Now, the question is, what do I do once I gather the feedback? So let's say all 5 or 10 or 25 people complete your 3 or 5 question survey, and now your job is to take the results from that survey and figure out what are you going to do with it. How are you going to adjust your product or change your product based on the feedback you got? So number 1, you're going to want to defend yourself. You're going to want to put on your boxing gloves, take that defensive stance, and punch that feedback giver right in their padded helmet. Don't. It's so human to get defensive when we get critical feedback. But the entire goal from the outset of sending that survey is to get the hard part out of the way. So you've got to do the work internally, which I'm going to tell you how to do in just a second. You've got to do the work internally to prepare yourself to use this feedback well, so that you haven't wasted their time in gathering the feedback, and you're not wasting your energy trying to fight against truth as your customer sees it. Your job is to serve your customers, not to fight them on what they want from you. Now, to prevent yourself from being defensive, to prevent yourself from wanting to fight back against this feedback, you have to understand something, and that is the difference between you, the human, and you, the human's work. You, the human, are valuable. You are awesome. You have so much potential. You can build skills. You can grow. You can be valuable. You can do all of these things as a human. You are already those things. You are already awesome. You already have potential. You already have people who love you. Okay? Number 1, you have to believe that. Number 2, you also have to know that you can be an awesome human who has people who love them, who is valuable, capable of being valuable. And you can also make a product that sucks. Okay? Let that sit for a minute. You are a great person. Your work might not be great yet. When a person gives you feedback about your work, that is not an insult to you. It's not an insult to how valuable you are. It's not an insult to how capable you are. It's a gift. Real, truthful feedback is a gift to you because that is your teacher. Using that feedback about your work allows you as a human with all of this potential and all of this value inside of you to learn how to apply that potential and value to helping other people. So you have to know before you read a single piece of feedback, you are valuable, you are loved by the people who care about you, and you have a ton of potential. Set that aside now. Believe that about yourself and know that your product probably needs work because no one gets it right the first time. Okay? Great. So we're not going to be defensive. We're going to treat our work as its own thing, and we're going to accept feedback accordingly. Now, before you read a person's feedback from top to bottom, I want you to approach this feedback differently. I want you to wait until you've gotten all of the results so that you're not reading them one by one, because it doesn't help to read feedback one by one. What's helpful in feedback is recognizing trends, recognizing patterns. As humans, we're incredibly good at recognizing patterns because we're just made to do that biologically. It's what prevented us from dying on the plains back in the day when they were predators. Now, what that helps us do is it helps us make money when we're entrepreneurs, because when we see patterns, it means that we can apply those patterns to our business so that we can succeed faster. So here's the deal. When you're reading through your feedback, I want you to wait till it all comes in. Don't read it one by one. Then, as you're reading it, I want you to read every answer to the first question first. Then, once you've read all of the answers to the first question, I want you to read all of the answers to the second question. Then the third, then the fourth, and the fifth. Okay? So instead of reading one person's feedback all the way through, you're reading one question's feedback all the way through. As you're reading the feedback that you get to that question, the answers you get to that first question, I want you to look for patterns. As you're looking for those patterns, I want you to categorize the feedback. So you can imagine categorizing the feedback under section headers, just like you might apply to a blog post. So you copy a piece of feedback and you put it under a header. So let's say one piece of feedback is about design. They say, you didn't use enough imagery in your ebook to help me resonate with the content, or your formatting or your typography made it too hard to read throughout the whole thing and I put it down as a result. These are all design problems. So you could imagine putting a header in a document that says design, bolding it, and then underneath that you're copying and pasting everything that has to do with design. And then maybe you have a part that is about things that people didn't want in the product anymore, information they didn't care about, or things that were confusing. So you can imagine categorizing this feedback as you receive it and as you read through it. So now, instead of individual humans who gave you feedback and reading all of that one person's feedback, you're looking at all of the humans' feedback who decided to respond to you, and you're putting into topical buckets. And this makes it so much easier not to take it personally, because now it's about a topic. It's not about the whole product. Now it's about a topic. It's not about you, the human. So as you're reading it, don't read each person's feedback one by one. Wait till you get it all and then put it into categories. Now, once you have it in categories, your job is to listen to the right feedback. It's to discern what is feedback worth applying and what is not worth applying to making your product better. To do that, we can take this feedback that's already been categorized by topic and we can put it into a couple of different buckets. And I have 3 buckets that you can put it into. The first one is, it's not for you. What it's not for you means is you had a beta tester who gave you feedback that reveals that they are not the right audience for this product. If that's true, so let's say that you made a product on weightlifting at the gym, okay? And the person's feedback is that they wanted you in the chapter on going to the gym to give them a strategy for not hating their life while they're running on the treadmill. That's the wrong person. You've said this is a weightlifting product. They're saying they want a running product. So if people are revealing to you that this product was not built for them, put their feedback in this category, because it's not worth listening to, because it will confuse you from serving the people who the product is meant for. So that's bucket number 1. It's not for you. Bucket number 2 is touche. What I mean by this bucket is you humble yourself and you realize this piece of feedback, while it might sting a little bit right now, is gold. These are the pieces of feedback that are gifts from the people who took the time to give it to you. The touche bucket are the things that we're going to act on when we take this feedback and we make the product better before we launch it publicly. So bucket number 2 is the touche bucket. Bucket number 3 is the if I have time bucket. This bucket is all about the wouldn't it be cool if statements. So if someone gives you a piece of feedback and says, hey, this ebook was really great, but wouldn't it be cool if you also had videos of you in the gym practicing proper form for all of the exercises that you recommend? And it's like, yeah, it would be cool. I don't have a camera. I don't have a business partner who can film me. I don't have a gym that allows me to film. Like, if there's a whole bunch of reasons why this piece of feedback, number 1, is awesome and would make the product infinitely better, and number 2, it's extremely hard to get done right now and is going to significantly delay the timeline for launching your product, that's what this bucket is for. Your job is to get this product done in the next 2 weeks. The touche bucket is for the things you can improve in those 2 weeks. The if I have time bucket is what you get to if you all of a sudden you have a bunch of time before your launch or after your launch and you have a successful product launch and now you come back to it and you're going to create version 2. That's also what this bucket is for. This is the stuff you come back to once you have more experience and more time and more resources to pour into it, so that all those wouldn't it be cool pieces of feedback now get incorporated into version 2 of the product and you sell even more of it as a result. Okay, so 3 buckets. It's not for you, touche, and if I have time. The touche bucket is the one that you want to focus on for improving the product before you launch it. Now, what you're going to realize as you categorize this feedback and you look at the touche feedback, there's 3 potential realizations you'll come to. Number 1 is you just made the wrong product. You made the wrong assumption, the wrong hypothesis, and you solved the wrong problem. You know who your audience is. Your audience is who made up your beta testers, and they're telling you that the product you made is not the one that they actually wanted, and now you know what the right product is. That's okay. You can start over in 30 more days, you can redo all the lessons that you've already done and you can have a new product. Don't lose hope just because you find out that you made the wrong product. But also, don't lie to yourself. If the feedback tells you you made the wrong product, stop. Don't keep working on the wrong product. Start over, build the right one, and come right back here 21 more days from now, and you're good to go. But don't waste a year continuing to focus on the wrong product, beating your head against the wall and trying to sell the wrong product to the right people. That's a waste of time for you and them, okay? Sometimes you made the wrong product and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to realize that you chose the wrong audience. So this is an alternative view on this, right? Which is if everyone's telling you, well, I don't want to go to the gym or I don't want to lift weights or whatever, you might just have the wrong audience. Maybe you have a really great product, but you've given it to the wrong people. So if you're finding that everyone who gave you feedback is the wrong person or the wrong audience, now you need to go try and find the right audience. So you should start over with product testing and go see if you can find a person who really needs the product you've built. And then your job is to build that audience instead. That's a perfectly good solution too. So if you're just getting started building your audience and you're just finding that the product that you built, which is really valuable, is just not right for them, just choose a different audience and start trying to build that audience instead. That can work too. So those are two different ways to solve a problem where the product and the audience are not fitting. One is you build a different product for the audience you have. The second is you keep the same product and you go find a new audience. Those things usually work when, number one, if you rebuild a product, that usually is better if you have a big audience already and they're pretty cohesive and you know what they need and you just made a mistake. Number two, if you chose the wrong audience, this is usually easier to start building a different audience if you're just getting started. So like, let's say you have 100 subscribers or less, maybe 500 subscribers or less. It's much easier at that point to go choose a new audience than if you have 10,000 subscribers. But the third realization is you just need to do the work. Sometimes you get the right audience, the right basic product, and it's just not quite good enough yet. And your job is to turn it into a great product that people are going to rant and rave about, not to make great excuses. We just got done reading a book at book club amongst the ConvertKit team. It's a book called Lynchpin by an author named Seth Godin. He's actually speaking at our ConvertKit conference this year in 2017. And in it, he talks about this idea of if-only statements. And if only usually precedes an excuse. And so you say, well, I would record higher quality videos if only whatever. I had a better camera, I had more time, I whatever. Your job is to remove the barrier that you're establishing after you say if only. Because that is an excuse. And if it's not possible to remove that barrier, then fixing the product in that way needs to go in the if I have time bucket, not the touche bucket. But your job is to take everything in that touche bucket of feedback and to fix it. Because you want to be known for making great products that serve people in great ways, not for the kind of person who makes mediocre products and excuses about why their products are mediocre. Be the kind of person who is great at what they do. You already have that in you, so why settle for less than that? Do the work to make your product great before you launch it, okay? That's what this feedback is for. Now, last topic for the day, and then we're going to wrap up. So pricing. You've taken the feedback, you've improved your product based on the feedback, and now you're thinking, okay, it's getting close to time to launch this thing. What should I price my product at? So the first question you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about pricing is, what's the point? What's the point for you? Not for your customer, for you. Why did you create this thing to begin with? Yes, you need to focus on your customer. At the end of the day, they have to be able to pay what you ask for, but you also need to know your goal. What's driving you to create this thing to begin with? three things that could be driving you, especially if you're early on. So if you're already a professional blogger, I'm assuming that you kind of know what you're doing, and I'll give you some other pricing advice in a minute. But for most people taking part in the Product Creation Masterclass, it's your first or second product, you're not yet making a full-time living, and you usually fall into one of these three buckets. So I want you to listen to these three questions and kind of think of yourself as falling into one of these buckets. First one is, you did this. You joined the Product Creation Masterclass to prove that you can make $1 online. Is that you? If so, your goal is simply to show that it's possible, to show that you can take all the advice that you've read about online and apply it to your own business and make $1. That's great. It's an amazing goal. It unlocks this whole new realm of possibility for you when you make that first $1 online. That is a great goal, and it makes it extremely easy to price, because now your job is just to sell something. And so you should price at a level that allows you to make that first sale, because that will unlock a belief in yourself that you don't currently have, even if you think you do. Second thing, did you do this? Did you join the Product Creation Masterclass to meet a short-term goal? And when I say short-term goal, I think of like, I have $5,000 of credit card debt and I want to pay it off. Or I want to remodel my kitchen so that I have nicer countertops. Or I want to buy a new car, and so I want to make this amount of money. A short-term goal usually has a specific financial number attached to it, a specific number of dollars that will help you reach that goal. That is great too, because it tells you, I need to sell X number of this product at this price to make that goal. You should have that in mind, because whatever you price this product at, you need to know, number one, how much profit you're going to make on that sale. So let's say you price your product at $50 and you have spent zero money to make it. So it's all profit, and you have to pay 5% credit card processing fees to whatever software you're using to sell your product. So you're going to lose $2.50 on that $50 product. So you're going to make $47.50 on every product you sell. So if you're trying to make $5,000, you can divide that by $47.50, and you know that you need to sell 102 products or whatever that is. So 5,000 divided by $47.50 equals 105 products. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful mindset to have when you have a short-term goal like that. So if you have a number you're trying to get to, just know that you need to divide that number by the amount of profit you're going to make on each sale based on the price you establish to meet your goal. Perfect. Now you get to go hustle and make that number of sales. Third bucket is, you join the Product Creation Masterclass to make the transition to being a professional blogger. If this is you, I love it, because this is our mission at ConvertKit. It is to help more people make a living from their craft as a professional blogger. And that's what we exist to do. And if this product is meant to help you make that leap from starting a business, which you've already done, to becoming a professional blogger that does this full time, that is another level. And you need to price your product as if you're trying to go pro, as if you're trying to make a full-time living. And that means you need to know how much money you need to earn every month. And you need to know that you don't just get to launch this product and then sit back and chill. This is the beginning of many, many months of work that are going to require you to continue to hustle time and time again to get those sales. So the reason I ask you to put yourself in one of these buckets is, you need to have the right mindset based on what your goal is. Make your first $1, meet a short-term financial goal, or number 3, become a professional blogger. Those are 3 very different goals, and it means that you need to know that going into pricing your product, because you require different things out of this launch, okay? All right, now, questions about your audience, because your audience dictates what you can charge. That is the truth. It doesn't matter how much money you want to make unless you can price your product properly for the audience you have. Okay? So you need to ask yourself, what can your audience that exists today already, not your audience in the future, your audience today, what can they afford? Are they college students and therefore they can only afford $5? Or they can't afford anything at all because they spend their money on beer, pizza, and textbooks? Are they stay-at-home moms who are not the primary breadwinners in their family, and so they have very little expendable income that they're ready to spend on this? Are they management consultants or investment bankers who have all kinds of expendable money and their problem is more time, and so they're willing to pay a lot if you can help them save time? You need to know this about your audience. You need to know who they are, and realistically, this month out of their budget what they can afford to pay you. Okay? Be real about this. Don't ask a person who doesn't have a job to pay you $5,000 for your product. That's irresponsible and you're being a jerk. Now if it's a management consultant and you're helping them, save 100 hours of their time every month, which is the most valuable thing to them, great, charge them $5,000 because that's in their budget. That's something that they value. So just make sure that your pricing strategy matches the audience. All right, that's first. Secondly, ask yourself, if my product didn't exist, what would my customers buy instead? What would they do to solve the same problem if my product didn't exist? The reason this is valuable is, think about making an ebook on weightlifting, and you're trying to help someone develop a weightlifting habit and get more in shape, okay? And so the other things they might buy instead of your ebook are, number one, a gym membership. They might decide to just go to the gym and figure it out for themselves, so they might do that instead. Number two, they might pay for a physical trainer. That might be the best way they feel like they can learn to lift weights for themselves. Number three, they might buy weightlifting equipment to do it at home instead of buying your product, and that might just be their solution, that they think they just need the equipment and they're all good. Or number four, they might buy a competing product, right? So these are all things that your customer might also spend money on instead of whatever product you have. Now, realistically, if you're making a weightlifting ebook, your customer is going to need weights of some kind. So they're also going to have to spend money on either a gym membership or a home gym. Okay, cool. So now we know that. But your ebook might be a real alternative to a trainer. And if that person is going to spend $500 on a trainer every month for 6 months to learn how to weightlift, or they can read your ebook and take one page of your ebook with the little workout tracker to the gym every time they go, then you can likely charge some percentage of what they would have spent on a trainer for your ebook, because you are a true alternative to that. So what you're trying to understand when you ask yourself this question is, what is the true problem that you're solving, and what are your customers' other options for solving that problem? Because if you can understand that your customer is going to spend $3,000 if they don't learn to weightlift themselves, then you know that charging them $500 for your course on weightlifting makes some sense. Okay? So, that's this question. If this product didn't exist, what would your customers buy instead? All right, now, if you're just getting started, this advice is for you. I want you to ask yourself, how much are you comfortable charging? And then I want you to double it. And this advice comes from a place of caring for you and understanding how hard it is to get started and how much confidence everyone lacks when they're just starting out online. If you think your ebook's only worth $9, it's definitely worth $20. If you think an hour of your time for coaching is only worth $50, it's definitely worth $100. Now, where this is not true is if you think that your time is worth $5,000 an hour and you're so overconfident that it's unrealistic, right? But most people don't have that problem, and I bet you don't have that problem either. So if you feel like you might not be charging enough for your product, you're probably not. And I want you to ask yourself how much you're comfortable charging and then double that number. Because I'd rather you find out you truly can't sell your product at that number than charge too little for a product that's worth way more than you're charging for it. I'd rather you find out that you're more valuable than you think you are, because you can always lower the price later, but it's much harder to raise your prices. So if you're just starting out, this is your first product, I would recommend asking yourself how much you're comfortable with and then doubling it. And if you question that advice, just ask me in the Slack community, tag me at Barrett Brooks and say, hey, what do you think about this pricing strategy for this product? And I'll try and help you out. So that's the last thing I got, okay? That's all the information on building your survey with 3 magic questions, on gathering and sorting your feedback into buckets of it's not for you, touche, and I'll do that later. And then third, on pricing your product in a way that makes sense for your goals and for your customers. So I hope this webinar has been super helpful. I hope it adds some color commentary to the topics that we covered in this week's material. And if you have any questions, you can always @ me in Slack. tag me in Slack, and I'll be happy to jump in there and answer them for you. Alrighty, we'll talk to you soon.